Episode 24. Disarm. Through strategic weakness and vulnerability. In his fascinating book, The Art of Seduction, Robert Greene reveals contrarian strategies for attracting romantic and sexual interest. One of the most powerful and counterintuitive involves purposefully displaying vulnerability and weakness. While conventional wisdom tells us to project an image of total strength and confidence, Greene explains how the seductive game is often won through strategic demonstrations of imperfection and fragility. The irresistible appeal of the imperfect. On the surface, it seems people would be drawn to those who appear to have it all together, who radiate self-assurance, composure, and control. However, Greene argues that too much of these qualities can actually have the opposite effect of repelling targets. A veneer of constant strength and self-sufficiency not only intimidates, but lacks authenticity and relatability. We're naturally skeptical of people who don't show any chinks in their armor. Someone who reveals glimpses of insecurity and imperfection, on the other hand, comes across as more human, accessible, and vulnerable, and therefore intriguing. Minor frailties and flaws pique our curiosity. They make us want to look past the exterior and understand the person on a deeper level. An admission of vulnerability creates a magnetic tension, drawing us toward the person who has opened up, if only briefly. The dangerous liaisons, ploy. To illustrate the power of feigned weakness, Greene cites the story of the Vicomte de Valmont, the notorious libertine from the classic 18th century novel, Dangerous Liaisons. In seducing the virtuous married Presidente de Tourvel, de Valmont adopts a guise of fragility and emotional neediness. He showers Tourvel with adulation about her beauty and grace, claiming her goodness has overwhelmed him with unfamiliar feelings of love and remorse over his dissipated past. De Valmont acts as if he's the sensitive victim, begging for her guidance in his spiritual anguish. In positioning himself as emotionally undone by Tourvel's charms, de Valmont renders himself non-threatening in her eyes. His vulnerability strokes her ego, making her feel powerful rather than hunted. Before long, her embarrassment over his displays turns to sympathy and finally affection. The strategic shedding of masculine airs. For men looking to seduce women, Greene suggests periodically shedding typical masculine airs of bravado and stoicism. Showing tenderness, emotiveness, and a longing for the woman's advice and nurturing allows her to play the seductive role traditionally reserved for females. Just as de Valmont did, acting bashful or heartsick can trigger a woman's protective and maternal instincts. Throughout history, Greene notes, many prolific ladies' men have understood the allure of embodying a touch of feminine vulnerability. Lord Byron's brooding sensitivity and delicate frame captivated women of his era. 50s icon. Marlon Brando's combination of rugged masculinity and little boy innocence had a similar power. In more recent years, figures like Michael Hutchence of INXS capitalized on a man-object image that played up a damsel-in-distress aura of gentle soulfulness alongside wild sexuality. The carefully calibrated display. For women, the seductive strategy of appearing delicate and in need of protection can be equally potent. However, Greene suggests a carefully balanced execution is key. A woman wants to seem fragile enough to stir a man's heroic pride and desire to shelter her, but retain an aura of smoldering sensuality that enhances his conquest. The legendary courtesan Cora Pearl cultivated an image of girlish vulnerability, dressing in childlike gowns with her hair in ringlets. Yet she was also regarded as one of the most voracious seductresses of her era. Marilyn Monroe exemplified a similar duality. Through her breathiness, giggles, and faux naivete, she ensured her lovers felt wanted as protectors. Yet she coupled this seeming helplessness with a class-defying sexual prowess. The impression was a damsel very much in distress, but of an exquisitely carnal form. Tears as a strategically deployed weapon of seduction. While few seducers can claim Monroe's skill at calculated innocence, one powerful but risky technique is within nearly anyone's reach: tears. Seeing someone cry triggers an innate empathy and protectiveness in most people. We instinctively want to understand the source of the tearful person's sadness and make it stop. Greene argues tears provide fertile, seductive ground precisely because they elicit care and a desire for intimacy. As an illustration, the book cites how Josephine Bonaparte wielded artful episodes of weeping to maintain dominance in her marriage to Napoleon. Napoleon, like most powerful men, feared excessive weakness in a mate. Josephine trod a fine line, offering tearful vulnerability in judicious doses, just convincing enough to melt his heart. But she was always careful not to overplay the victim lest he grow contemptuous. Crucially, there had to exist some truth behind the tears, a glimpse of authentic vulnerability, to keep them from seeming like an outright manipulative ruse. Tears work seductive magic by giving voice to human frailties we all share and often ache to express to trusted others. Used sparingly and in sync with real feelings, they humanize the weeper in an irresistible way. The art of exuding flawed perfection. In the seducer's arsenal, the power of strategic weakness lies in its suggestion of an authentic, relatable vulnerability. We're drawn to those who not only seem strong, but also belie an under-the-radar fragility. An admission of harmless flaws and insecurities implicitly tells us the person is being vulnerable with us. This creates intimacy and makes us feel empowered rather than threatened. From the female seductress feigning girlish innocence and neediness, to the ostensibly overwhelmed male who plays the sad boy, the illusion is spun of being allowed to glimpse a usually concealed softer side of someone both desirable and human. Someone who only reveals this private self to the select. The seducer carefully orchestrates glimpses of seeming weakness, slowly bringing us behind the veil in a hypnotic striptease of imperfection. Of course, overplaying the weak hand renders the ploy transparent. Properly deployed, however, strategically timed disclosures of insecurity and inner vulnerability have a powerfully humanizing and irresistible effect. They open a window to an intimacy we crave, while shrouding enough mystery to maintain the seduction's intrigue. The vulnerability ultimately projected is that of beautiful, flawed perfection, and those under its spell feel indispensable for being allowed such a privileged view. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, and if you found something relatable, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section. Now onto something crucial. Make it a habit to learn something valuable every day that genuinely benefits you. Remember, the content you feed your mind is like nourishment for your brain, so choose wisely. Be intentional about it. Otherwise, algorithms may manipulate your thinking. Consider that. Additionally, we're now welcoming contributions in the form of subscriptions to help fund our upcoming projects and provide you with outstanding content. Join us in our journey by subscribing today.